You're playing the 10 of hearts. You have big, abundant, heartfelt emotions. But in our society, we don't live in a place that recognizes feelings. So it can be challenging to be born to play a heart card in this world that we're in.
Since I've uncovered that heart card, I feel so much more like myself.
You are now live from the source with Viki and Alexander. Live your life from the source. Play your cards right. What's your number? Well, hello, everyone. We're here with our friend Kathryn Curtice. This is Live from the Source. I'm Alexander.
And I'm Viki.
And let Viki tell our audience a little bit about Kathryn.
So Kathryn Curtice is a longtime student of our work, using the source cards to guide her in her life. She has been on a journey of personal awareness since her early 20s. Kathryn embraces life challenges as healing opportunities and adheres to her consciousness journey as a contribution to raise the consciousness of the planet. Her focus is to engage in practices that enhance her self-awareness and inner peace with the intention of contributing to the well-being of herself, others, and the planet. Kathryn is a Brennan Healing Science practitioner, having graduated from the Barbara Brennan School of Healing in 2012. She is also a fee-only financial advisor and has had her own business since 1986. Kathryn is an avid gardener. You have to see her garden. It's spectacular. A performer and a singer and a lover of animals. She has been with her husband, Al, the love of her life, for 32 years, and they live in the town of Cambria, California. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today to talk about your journey, your life, and what it's been like for you to be born to play the 10 of hearts with a 10 of diamonds personality. And so what has your journey been like? I mean, you've probably known for a long time that you are a heart-based person. You have a big heart with that 10 of hearts. What was it like for you as a little girl with all your big feelings?
Wow, that's a big question. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in a family of Stepford wife people, and I was like the big feeling person. So it's like I kind of stood out, but not in a good way from the standpoint of my family dynamics. So, but it didn't stop me from being that big feeling little girl. You know, I think I felt the feelings for everybody in the family. You know, I was kind of that tank effect, you know, it would just all build up in me. But I came out of the womb, you know, very quickly. The doctor said, oh, she's not gonna be here for a while. So just relax. And then 2 minutes later, my mom's pushing the red button to get the doctor to come in, and I come in, you know. So I came out, you know, with this exuberant energy and joy, and here I am. And all these feelings, you know, whatever the feelings were, anger, sadness, joy, and, you know, was difficult for my other siblings to, not so much my dad, it wasn't difficult for him. My mom, it was a little difficult for her because my dad and I were very close. So I think there was a bit of jealousy with my mom towards me, but she was very good about not letting it bother her. You know what I mean? She was very loving. So, but that's to answer your question, I think.
I started you off with a big one. It's true.
You did.
We went right there.
Yeah.
But that's something that I'm born to play the 9 of hearts, and you're echoing things that I have experienced also in my family dynamic. I'm the only one playing a heart card, and I didn't know my cards to play until in my 30s, but it suddenly made my life make perfect sense when I learned that I'm born to play the 9 of hearts, that I am someone who feels things to the nines. You're playing the 10 of hearts. You have even bigger feelings, big, abundant, heartfelt emotions. And it's not just in our family, but in our society, in our culture, in our world, We don't live in a place that recognizes feelings, let alone trusting the feelings or making space for feelings. So it can be challenging to be born to play a heart card in this world that we're in. So it takes courage, I would say. I give myself a little pat on the back. It, but what was it like for you? Did you find that it took a lot of courage for you to embrace who you really are?
As a young girl, or just all through my whole life?
All of it. I mean, whichever way you want to take it.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, I remember when I was in healing school, and we had practice clients, and they would, I would want to hug them or touch them. And, in school, they kind of, didn't give us like strict boundaries or anything, but it was all about, a certain kind of relationship you want to hold with the client and boundaries, healthy boundaries. And so I remember being a bit confused, like, how am I going to be myself? And then what are these boundaries that I'm supposed to be holding here? And then in year 3 of the 4-year program, I had a new healer that I was working with, and she would always like hug me and kiss me on the lips and at school and stuff too, because she was a teacher.
Wow.
She'd come right into the community room and, we're eating lunch and give me a big kiss on the lips. And then I thought, oh, okay. So then when I had my practice clients, I just started kissing them and hugging them goodbye. And, I felt so liberated, to just be myself. And so that, and before being a healer, I'm a financial planner. So, you kind of have a different kind of relationship with someone when you're managing their money than helping them on their healing journey. And so, I remember when I was younger, I was very professional, so I wasn't able to just totally be huggy with my clients and stuff. It wasn't until I, got to be in my 40s or 50s, I'm 63 now, that I was able to just, be touchy feely with people and not feel like, oh gosh, that's not good. People aren't going to like that, or that's not appropriate, or, yeah. So now I have
Yeah.
no issue with it. You know what I mean? I'm just myself with hugging whoever, and kissing whoever.
That is the
Great.
heart way. That's the heart-based way, is to be touchy-feely. And so you're absolutely right. For you to be authentic and playing your 10 of hearts well, you're going to want to hug people. You're going to want to touch people, because that's the love language of the hearts that you're expressing.
Yeah.
What sparked you to go to Brennan? How did you end up on that path to go to Brennan?
Well, a girlfriend of mine gifted me a 30-minute session with a psychic that she loved. And because she kept telling me about the psychic, and I'd write the psychic's name down, but I never follow through. And so she just called the psychic up and paid for a session. And then the psychic called me and said, your girlfriend gifted you a session. I said, okay. So the first thing she said to me, this is before obviously going to Brennan, first thing she said to me was, oh, you're a healer. And I'm thinking to myself, what is a healer? I'm like, really? I'm a financial planner. I'm like, what is she talking about? And then she says, and you've been hiding out, she said.
Mm.
And I said, oh. And so it was, for like 2 weeks after that, I was really feeling out of sorts with myself. I was feeling really grumpy, like, like confused, and like, somebody had busted me, but I didn't know what I was busted for, but there was something resonating in me with that. And so then Al, my husband, asked me to go on the Barbara Brennan site. He's a massage therapist, and he asked me to go on the site and order him some of her CDs. And so I went on there and I saw there was a free catalog for the school. And I said, what is this school about? Al's been talking about this school for years. I didn't really know what it was. And so I just ordered the catalog, got it in the mail. grabbed it on our way on a 4-hour trip. I thought, oh, this would be some nice reading. I started reading about the program and I started thinking, oh, wow, this is a really cool school. They incorporate so many different aspects of healing, your own personal healing journey, as well as helping others on their journey. And I just remember reading it and feeling like, wow, really excited about it. So I was driving and I say, hun, this school is really cool. Check this out. It does this and this and this and brings this and this in. And I said, you want to go to the school? You've always talked about it. And he said, no. And I said, well, I'm thinking I want to go. I go, but I was freaking myself out even saying that, because it was just like going from, you know what I mean, a financial planner mindset to a healer mindset. And, then I went to the school and, here it was very, like everything in life, very divinely guided. And I needed a really big push in that direction because it wasn't on my radar at all.
Wow. It's like one extreme to another in some ways. Like, here you're doing this one job and it's like, okay, now I'm going to go over here and do something completely like out of the box,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Well, one thing that occurs to me, so I'll just share for our audience, this, Kathryn, that your birth card is the 10 of hearts, and then your personality card is the 10 of diamonds. And diamonds is the physical, financial, material stuff of life. And I cover up the 10 of hearts on purpose because most of us are more identified with our personality card. It's how we might define ourselves. It's the outer layer of who we are. And playing the 10 of diamonds, you would be perfectly suited to be a financial planner. 10 is abundance and diamonds, material, finances. So there's an ability that you would have in your personality to help people organize their finances and plan for their prosperity, to have their financial abundance. It was so interesting to me to hear you say you felt like you got busted when the psychic was like, well, actually, there's another layer under there. There's something
Right.
else under there.
Underneath.
Underneath the surface there,
Yeah.
there's another big heart-based version of you that is the deeper you. It's not that the 10 of diamonds isn't a reflection of you, but the 10 of hearts is the deeper core essence of who you are in this life, the journey that you've chosen to play out as a soul. And the 10 of hearts is like an ambassador of love, bringing love, showing people how to love, shining your heart light. Sounds like being a healer. Not all salt is created equal. For over 40 years, Celtic sea salt has been hand harvested from pristine coastal waters, rich in minerals, unrefined, and naturally delicious. We can definitely vouch for that. Sprinkle it on your favorite dishes and taste the difference. Pure, authentic, full of life. Trusted by chefs, nutritionists, and families worldwide, because your body deserves more than just salt. It deserves Celtic sea salt. Celtic sea salt, nature's gift from the sea to your table.
We love Celtic sea salt. We use it on all our food, and sometimes for an energy boost, I just take a little bit on my tongue, just like that.
How has that felt for you to tap into the heartfelt authenticity of who you are?
Well, here, Alexander, hearing you explain it, how you explained the birth card, showing me the birth card behind the personality card. It's since I've uncovered that heart card, it's like I feel so much more like myself. Like I think I had a lot of pretenses, especially being 24, being a woman and starting a financial planning practice. It's like in 1986, so it was at a time where there were very few female financial advisors in the San Diego County where I started my practice. And so I had a lot of pretenses You know what I mean? I had a facade I had to hold. I mean, I had my hair really short and I wore glasses and business suits every day, had my office in La Jolla, in this very nice, building. And so it was all this, you know what I mean? Like this, facade, if you will, of,
Mm,
fake it till I make it kind of a thing. And
mm,
so I feel like as I've dropped and working with your material has helped me to drop deeper into my heart-centered self, knowing that I'm a 10 of hearts. It's like it gives me permission, to be authentically more who I am, knowing that about myself, what my cards are. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've been able to, just through some very difficult times the last 2 years of my life, that I've been able to lead with my heart, just always leading with my heart. And the other thing I know about my cards is that uh, setting boundaries is a
mm,
challenge for me. And the last two
mhm,
years, I've had to set so many boundaries, specifically with my siblings.
mm.
Um, but I've led with my heart, and I've been, and I reflect on that all the time while I'm watching the drama with my siblings, not leading with their hearts, and I don't know what all their cards are, but I see how it's kind of like a helpful for me to see that I am leading with my heart, even if I'm setting boundaries. I'm being nice about it. I'm not being mean. I'm just being
Mhm.
clear and, loving. Everything, every email during those 2 years of a very challenging time for me was always ended with love, Kathryn, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's really cool, Alexander, how you showed me that thing with the cards and the one card being behind the other, the birth card. Is it common that everybody's birth card is kind of hidden behind? And
Yeah.
you
Yes.
might have already said that to me.
Yes.
Yeah. And I
Well,
think
it is, and
that's really valuable information for people to know about your work.
yeah, thank you. And Vicky, if you want to share your experience too with that.
Well, I wanted to
Oh, you
talk
want to do this?
about,
Okay.
I mean, I just, the fact that you're playing a double 10, it's like really big energy, like a double whammy of this 10 bright in the spotlight kind of energy. And then you talked about creating the boundary, which is you see it in the pit pattern. Like this is the boundary, right? In the center. Center is shining the light in the center, in the spotlight of love, in the spotlight of what you value most in your life, and then creating the boundary. Was that a part of like knowing that it was in the cards for you about boundaries? Did that affect, how you created boundaries for yourself? Like, because growing up, were you able to say no and to create boundaries for yourself?
And no, I didn't learn that until later in life. And because I knew that that was a challenge for me in my cards, that setting boundaries, um, meaning like when I was off my game, I knew there's a lot of information in your teachings around that for my 10 of diamonds and 10 of hearts. I'm not sure which, but you can tell me if you want to speak to
Sure.
that. But it really did help me to know my cards around my challenges and setting boundaries. And also the fact that I knew I was a heart centered person, I could just hang out in my heart and set boundaries. Oftentimes, though, I would, if I was trying to set a boundary with my siblings, um, I would like read whatever I was going to send them to Al, my husband. I go, "Hun, how does this sound?" Because I'd always want kind of a sounding board of, am I being loving here? You know what I mean? Because I was so uncomfortable setting boundaries, it was difficult for me to do it. But I knew I had to do it, you know? But you asked me when I was younger, well, I couldn't say no. It's still difficult for me to say no. You know, I feel guilty or bad when I say no, so I have to, but Al, my husband, I mean, he's helped me a lot with that because he'll say, "Hun, it's okay for you to say no." Because I used to have to get mad to say no. It's like I had to get mad because I couldn't say no. So,
Yes.
and it's still hard for me to say no because it doesn't feel very loving. There's something tied in with that for me, when I say no. So I've had to learn, especially in the last 2 years, how to say no and be loving and allow everybody else to have their reaction and know that, okay, it's okay. You know, I,
Right.
yeah,
It's really the biggest form of love for yourself to say no. Right.
yes,
So it's really loving towards yourself and not caretaking the other person, putting them first and being responsible for them by honoring yourself, acknowledging yourself, valuing yourself, and saying no for you. You know.
yes. So true.
Yeah.
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 It really is. And I want to go back to your question, Catherine, of is that true for everyone that the personality card covers up the birth card? And it was certainly true for me. My birth card is the Nine of Hearts. My personality card is the Seven of Clubs. The Seven of Clubs, like spiritual thinking, philosophical thinking, big picture thinking. If you had asked me up until my 30s who I am, I would have considered myself an intellectual. And
But
that was the way other people thought of me as well.
yeah,
Went to Harvard, studied philosophy. I went to seminary to study theology. I studied religion, continually interested in studying religion and philosophy. That's who I thought I was. I thought of myself as a spiritual thinker or a philosophical thinker. That's the Seven of Clubs as my personality. And so to answer your question, I do think I have actually yet to see an exception to this, that we tend to hide out in our personality. And so I was pointing to Viki because I know that was your experience also when you first heard about the cards too.
Oh, I spent a long time of really needing to explore my birth card because, and I mean, I'm still doing it, but to really, really understand, activate, and know my birth card. I'm playing the Five of Diamonds as my birth card and a Queen of Spades as my personality card. And I really identified so much with the Queen of Spades, like having this real, Zen presence facade I would have, and like being able to be very intuitive and tuned into consciousness and see things on my mind screen, like be psychic and I, just yeah, the Five of Diamonds sort of sparkly out of the box, um, searching for the mysteries of life and traveling and that kind of thing. I push that part down in a lot of ways, like certainly behind the Zen. I wouldn't even raise my hand in class and I would be quiet and I would never ask questions and I would just kind of sit and listen and not really say much. And those are like, a lot of that I feel is the low side, playing the low side of the Queen of Spades, not expressing myself and needing for everything to be perfect. But hiding behind that for sure.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think in a lot of ways, our journey for any human being, for all of us, is that coming back home, we could say, coming back to ourselves, deprogramming the cultural conditioning, the outer face that we wear, that we all learned was safer, uh, was a place where we could hide out. I think for all of us in the spiritual journey or just the maturation process, it's about coming back to our birth card. That's what I've noticed
yeah.
anyway for people, that we like to hide out in that personality card. It feels safer.
I think that's such a just an amazing um, aspect of the work you do and the cards. This is the first time I, ever have truly understood the purpose of having two cards. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like now I get, oh, this is why there are two cards, with what we've been talking about. That's
Mm.
powerful.
Mm.
Well, wonderful. And we have a whole life path of cards too, the 13 plus cards. But these two, yes, these are the primary patterns and the way that they play together. And
Yeah.
then when we're playing them well, that personality card becomes like the prism through which we reflect our light. So your 10 of hearts will come out through this financially abundant way. And you actually could still be a financial planner, but one who's operating with a healing heart, the way that you're approaching your clients. So
Yeah.
they do go well together.
Well, it's funny you say that because I mean, I have only one financial planning client now. And she's been a client of mine for 35 years. And we're always like, I'm totally heart centered with her now. I wasn't when we first were, when she
Oh,
first became a client, I wasn't. But now I am very heart centered with her, and she is with me too, so it's been really sweet to have that connection, and there were some other clients where when I had my full practice, I sold it in 2015, but when I had my full practice, there were a handful of clients that I could, you know, be authentically in my 10 of hearts with. But yeah,
mhm.
if I were to start my practice today, it would be different. But I started it when I was 24. So, and like you, Alexander, didn't really fully come into my awareness of my authentic self till later in life.
Tens are about being in the spotlight. And I've met and worked with many tens who do not like being in the spotlight. So I'm curious, like, how is that for you? How do you like to be in the spotlight? Like to be the center of attention, to be in front of people, radiating yourself, radiating your love and what you
Mm,
value.
yeah. Uh, well, the most obvious way that I'm, the center of attention, if you will, is being a singer, and a performer. I do that just for fun, and just in the after my mom passed away 2 months ago, she lived with me now for the last 8 months of her life. And I was in Hawaii after she died, and I said to myself, what haven't you been doing with your life that you want to do? What haven't you done? And I've always wanted to be in a band, always wanted to be in a band. And so I said, I have some friends that are in one of my favorite bands in this county. And the way they found each other was through Craigslist, musicians, the subtitle of musicians. And so I thought, okay, I'm sitting on the lanai in Maui, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to post on Craigslist that I want to, find a band. And I thought, okay, let me just start with a guitarist. So I put seasoned singer, looking for seasoned guitarist, to who likes to play a variety of music from pop to rock to soul. Um, that would like to and I said something like would like to do gigs locally in the daytime, because I don't want to be like this performer that's out till 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever. That's just not where I am in my life. So I got 5 hits, and I found one guy that I really like. We jammed together last week. He's like, and knows all these genres. In addition to the ones I know, he knows all these other genres I've never sung, like jazz and bossa nova. And so we're gonna perform. And so I'm gonna put together. We're putting together our song list right now. I'm gonna, go and find us some gigs. And this is just like a longing in me to perform and in front of people, not just jam. But even though I like that part of being in the spotlight, I'm nervous when I do it. I'm not like, oh, look at me. I'm all like, okay, I got to ground and, just, make sure I'm really prepared, and And I know the more I do it repetitively, the more relaxed I will be, you know? So, yeah. So I was missing being in the spotlight, having taken care of my mom, you know, for actually the last 2 years. I didn't really have the time to be able to, you know, perform. Um, so, and that's my love is singing. So I want to keep singing, you know, and I told myself, if you're working with a guitarist, then you're going to sing, you know what I mean? You're just going to have a goal to learn certain songs and, you know, so that's one way, but I don't know of other ways that I enjoy being in the spotlight. I'm not sure. Like when in a group of people, it's not like I'm the person there telling the stories and everybody's listening. That's not me. I'm the person over in the corner talking to one person in depth about their life. You know, that's me. You know, so I'm not sure other aspects or ways that I would be in the spotlight, but the singing is the primary way, or, you know, in the past performing on stage and, you know, little shows in our little town, you know, nothing, not in New York or anywhere. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that's still being in the spotlight. I mean, that's still, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful to radiate in that way and be in the spotlight in those ways. Sounds
Yeah.
great.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting when you had the moment of self-reflection and you asked yourself, what am I really wanting to do that I'm not doing? And what came forth was, well, I want to sing, which is like being in the spotlight, because singing, unless you're singing at home in the garage or in the living room, if you're in any way performing, you're going to automatically be in the spotlight as a singer, even if it's a small stage, and literally in the spotlight, because there'll be a spotlight shining on you to light you up. So what I find really interesting is that as a soul, for lack of a better way of saying it, we come in to play a game, and the soul, at a soul level, we know what we're here to do. We know our purpose. We know the game plan that's laid out in our life path of 13 plus cards. And so in those quiet moments, or when we're meditating or we're just settling into ourselves, that's when we hear those whispers. That's when we hear that gentle nudge. And for you, it was, go be in the spotlight, shine your light, sing your song. So I find that very interesting, that that is the inner messaging that you got, and it's perfectly reflected in the patterns of the cards that you chose to play in this lifetime. I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
Someone else would have gotten a different inner message based on listening to what their soul is speaking. But for
Michael
you,
Jackson got the same message.
he has the same cards.
He has the same cards as you.
Oh,
And yeah.
The king of pop.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean,
yeah.
But you also hit on something really important, which is being grounded in the spotlight. Speaking of Michael Jackson, someone who struggled in the spotlight. And we see that, we look up celebrities' cards, and people with the 10 energy, they're often celebrities, and they often don't know how to handle the spotlight.
Mm.
And so you're touching on something really important about being grounded in the spotlight.
Yeah.
that's a wonderful teaching. Yeah. So important.
Yeah.
What's your own personal practice for that? How do you stay grounded in the spotlight?
You mean when I'm performing, Alexander?
Yeah.
What I do, I always, you know, before I go on stage, I always, you know, there's the techniques that we learned at Barbara Brennan to ground, you know, and so I'll, you know, visualize roots growing out of the bottom of my feet, and as well as my first chakra. And I just visualize those roots going through all the layers of, you know, the earth. And I do some, you know, just gentle breathing while I'm doing that. Because I'm an exuberant kind of person, when I get excited, I can feel like I'm like not completely in my body. Then when I'm going to go out and perform, I'm excited, kind of like also when I played soccer, would be that way too. Where when I had a game, I would be, really excited. I didn't know about grounding back then. I
Mm,
just would do stretches before I go out in the field, and that seemed to calm me down.
sure.
So because I'm this exuberant kind of energy, naturally, it can take me out of being grounded. And so that's what I do before I go on stage. And then and then the other thing I make sure I always do is that I'm really prepared, because then if I get nervous while I'm on stage, I just can tap into, all the, the visceral memory in my body of whatever the words are, or whatever the lyrics are, to be able to continue going on if I get nervous. Yeah.
Wow.
That's for anyone listening who may be born to play a 10 of hearts. They're hearing some gems of wisdom from Katherine about how to stay grounded. I imagine that would apply in any situation, not just getting on stage. It's a practice for someone with your cards to play. I sometimes am telling my clients that these kinds of little practices, like the one you just mentioned, it's like brushing our teeth. It's something to get in the habit of doing that's a good daily ritual that feels good. Like I like my teeth being clean. And for you playing the 10 energy, it feels good, I'm sure, to feel grounded and feel prepared. And then that helps you to shine effortlessly.
Yeah. And then I have more fun. Then I can just have fun,
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's, the things that you love doing, whatever it is, singing, I gave you the example of playing soccer. Those are two passionate things in my life. And, you want to have fun when you're doing them, that's the whole point. Right. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, I'm glad I learned those techniques, because, before Barbara Brennan's school, I didn't really know even what grounding meant. And, once I learned the practice of grounding and could feel the difference in my field, my physical, emotional, mental, spiritual state of being, then I was like, oh, wow, this is powerful. And you, Alexander and Viki, did the same thing before this podcast started for us. You did a nice meditation, and that was really helpful for me, because, I'm like I said, I'm just like a very exuberant person. So it's helpful to have both that feeling of being grounded and exuberance, as opposed to just
Yes.
the exuberance.
Yes.
Mm.
Sometimes I feel like exuberance is like being out of the body. It's like, woo, like just
Yeah. Yeah.
right. It's like, yeah. I love the
Yeah.
image of the roots. That feels really good. Like I just imagine it and feel it in my body, like roots, like a tree going down. It's great.
Yeah.
So I'd love to switch and talk about some other cards in your life path. So we have 13 plus cards in our life path of cards. They all show a different aspect of our human being. We've talked a little bit about the birth card and your personality card, those two cards playing off of each other. And so your Saturn card, which is about life lessons and challenges, is the Queen of Hearts.
Queen of Diamonds.
Oh, where am I? Oh, Queen of Diamonds. Sorry.
Yeah,
I have it in my
you
hand.
have
I
the
just
right
said the
one.
wrong one.
You have it right.
Is the Queen of Diamonds. Now, the Queen is a feminine energy. Diamonds and a leader. Diamonds represent what you value most in your life. Queen, feminine, motherly energy. So, how has this shown up in your life as a challenge for you? The feminine energy, the motherly energy, feminine relationship connections, things like that. How has it showed up for you in your life? How have you overcome it? How has it been a challenge for you? Anything around this energy,
Yeah. Well, I'm one of 5 kids and one of 4 girls. And of course, my mom. And I was always close with my dad from the time I was born. He played with me all the time. And my mom is a 10 of hearts. as well. And
Oh.
she must have hid behind her personality card because and I don't know what her personality card is. I can't remember what it is.
I'm pretty
Do you
sure
remember her birthday?
Yeah, December
it's
21st.
an ace.
Oh, yeah. So
It's an ace, right?
Ace of Diamonds.
I was going to say Ace of Diamonds.
Oh, or Queen of Diamonds.
Yeah.
I was
It's
going to
another
say,
diamond.
okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she probably was hiding out behind her diamond energy.
Yes. And so she was the kind of mom, she had 5 kids, right? And so she was getting things done. She wasn't about sitting down, having you on her lap, stroking your hair, giving you kisses and hugs. That's just, she just was, had to get everything done. And that was her focus. And my sisters, because I was this exuberant, big feeling little girl, who had a really close connection with dad and had big feelings, they didn't know what to do with me. So, they would often exclude me when they were playing games. And so I learned I didn't have a very good modeling about what it felt like to trust or connect with the feminine energy of my mom or my sisters. And so, and when I was in school, I remember one of the teachers in year 3, when I was up on stage, she was reading my field and I don't know what I was sharing, but I remember she put her hand on my heart and she said that something about me not trusting women. You're not feeling safe with women, I think is what she said.
This was
Safe
your
with women.
3rd grade teacher?
No, this
No,
isn't
that was
third
that's
year
Brennan.
Brennan.
Brennan. When you said 3rd year, I thought you meant like 3rd year, like 3rd grade. I was like, whoa, what kind of 3rd grade teacher did you
Yeah.
have?
Yeah, third year of Brennan.
Okay.
Sorry.
3rd year of Brennan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she was reading my field and said, you don't all, she could see in my heart something and said that I don't feel safe with women. Now, again, when you are in some kind of situation where someone says something to you that resonates with you, but you're not aware of it, then you start reflecting on it. And so I started recognizing how I didn't feel safe with women, like from a very young age, and there were situations in my life where women were jealous of me often had women jealous of me. Just being myself, and I was pretty heart-centered, even though I wasn't aware of that 10 of hearts, I was still very heart-centered, especially when I was younger. It wasn't until I started my business that I think I kind of hid more about behind my personality card. But anyways, I didn't like women. Because they weren't nice to me. This was kind of the belief system I had developed based on my experiences. So it took a lot of effort on my part to trust women, but in the beginning, I would attract women who I would fall into a caretaking pattern with, like I needed to help them. That was the only way I could feel safe with them. I helped them because I didn't put attention on me, then I was vulnerable. I was helping them when they were vulnerable. So I had a long pattern of that and then pretty much undid that pattern, did a lot of healing work around my relationship with my mom, which is where that distrust of women, if you will, started, because I think I sensed also that she was jealous of me and my dad. It's a relationship because here I am, this exuberant little girl playing with my dad all the time and laughing and having a good time while she's working, taking care of the kids, resentful towards my dad for not helping more has always been what she had told me, in my adult life. And so I think that it took a lot. It wasn't probably until Barbara Brennan School of Healing and doing the work around my relationship with my mom and the pain of not feeling connected with her that I was then able to start healing that and attracting relationships with women where I could be vulnerable. And I, have women in my life now where I can be vulnerable, but I'm not, uh, I'm not necessarily just vulnerable with anyone. Do you know what I mean? But I think that that's healthy. So, you know, yeah, it was very much a struggle for me, that Saturn feminine mother energy. One of my biggest
Well, thank,
life lessons.
well, thank you for your vulnerability now in sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It is in the blueprint of your life, in your cards, that as Vicky pointed out, the Queen of Diamonds, the feminine energy, which can be your mother, sisters, it could be your own feminine side, that would be the area of your life where your life lessons would come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's interesting, I didn't know your mother was born to play the 10 of hearts as well, like you. So that actually, I have a little aha moment where my guess is that you triggered her because she was disconnected from her own feelings. And as a little innocent girl, you're expressing your feelings in a big way. Hers were so bottled up and hidden that you triggered her.
Yeah.
And that was her jealousy because you could do what she was
Yes.
unable to do.
Yeah. I did ask her one time, years later, I said, Mom, I don't think I ever talked to her about whether she was jealous. I didn't ever ask her if she felt jealous of my relationship with Dad, but I did, in Brennan, you learn about the lineage of wounding and, in a family. And I remember one time asking my mom, because she was very close to her dad and not so close to her mom. And I said, Mom, do you think that your mother was jealous of your relationship with your father? She said, oh, yes. And I started asking her questions around that. And it really helped me because I saw the pattern then. I saw the pattern. But then, of the lineage of wounding that got carried down to me, but I'm the one who healed it, which is beautiful. I'm going to cry now because, having had my mom live with me the last 8 months of her life and knowing she's a 10 of hearts and that I'm a 10 of hearts, really helped me because I had done so much healing work around my relationship with my mom that when she was with me, we were able to hang out in that love together and be really silly and playful. And I'd kiss her all the time and she'd kiss me and I'd tell her I love her all the time. And she'd tell me she loved me. And it was just a love fest with me and my mom for those 8 months she lived, with me and my husband. So it's quite rewarding healing journey, full circle moment to have dealt with my feminine mother issues and then to have my own mom live with me and my husband and then have it be nothing but love and sweetness, between us.
That's so beautiful.
I am absolutely in awe of you. I'm gonna get emotional as well. I mean, I've witnessed you on your journey, and it's really quite profound how I've seen you evolve and grow and learn and overcome this challenge, And I mean, just you are so inspiring. And I hope everybody gets to listen to this because you're so inspiring on the healing journey of what you've done for yourself and the courage and the willingness that you have to grow and heal, and challenge yourself, So it's my honor to be a witness and to be your friend. And thank you for your inspiration.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you, sweetie.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question, and this maybe fall into the category of another big question, but this is the question that comes to my heart to ask you. sharing the beautiful full circle healing experience you had with your mother, and knowing that it's in your life path to learn your lessons and healing the feminine and healing the wounding of the feminine in your lineage. What was the big lesson that you got out of that experience?
So, Alexander, when you say the big lesson I got out of the experience, can you elaborate a little bit more?
Sure. So you had this wonderful time with your mother, these 8 months at the end of her life, where because of your own healing, you were able to show up for her in the healing way. And it sounds like she reciprocated that well, actually, let me ask that. What was the transition, if you know, for her where she suddenly opened her heart more? What was that process?
Yeah, and where that came from was my oozing love all over her. It was just so sweet because I just would just kiss her all the time. And I, over and over again, she had moderate dementia. And, so I just come up behind her, and I put my, you know, lips on her cheeks and I just kiss her all over again, all over, hi, mom, I love you, and she'd giggle. And then sometimes I would turn my face, not to get a kiss from her, but I turn my face and then she'd very quickly give me a kiss. And, and then, I'd tell her, I'd look at her all the time and I'd say, Mom, I love you so much. I said, and I would tell her, Mom, you are she was a beautiful woman. She's 95 when she died. And I said, Mom, you are beautiful on the outside and beautiful on the inside, and I just ooze her with love. I just, I was in my 10 of hearts, just authentically
Hmm.
loving her. And
Hmm.
pretty soon, like it, and well, pretty soon she started reciprocating, so I think I helped her in the end of her life. You know what I mean? To drop deeper into her 10 of hearts, of being affectionate and loving, because that was not a natural thing for her to do. But knowing that she was a 10 of hearts and knowing myself as a 10 of hearts, I knew what that energy was, and
Right.
so I didn't do it intentionally to get her to, open up or anything. It just happened because I was just loving her. The other thing about our relationship that contributed to that love, I had absolutely no idea how silly my mom was ever until she moved in with me. I had no idea. So we would be in the bathroom and I'd be helping her brush her teeth and I'd be standing in the mirror next to her, looking in the mirror. I'd be pointing, in my mouth, okay, well, I'll brush here. And I'm guiding her because when someone has dementia, they don't exactly know what to do. So it's like a young child, you need to coach them. So I'm in there pointing with my mouth and I'm in the mirror, I'm pointing to my teeth and she gets done brushing and then she would like look up at me and we're looking in the mirror and then she'd stick her tongue out at me, you know,
Mm.
and just start laughing. And I was like, I had no idea how silly she was, and so she would say, like, we'd go out to go for a little walk, and I go, Mom, oh, let's go for a walk, we'll go look at the birds and the bees and everything, Mom. And she'd go, well, as long as they don't bite me, you know, and she
Mm.
was being silly, even though she had dementia, she was actually silly, and then the dog would be barking next door, woof, woof, and I had a video of her because it was so funny. The dog's barking. We're going in the door and he's nonstop barking and I'm videoing it because my mom is mimicking the dog barking. Like the dog goes woof and then she goes woof and then he goes woof, woof. And she goes woof, woof. And then he goes woof, woof, woof. And she goes woof, woof, woof. And at the end, she goes, oh, shut the damn up like that. It was the funniest thing. And my mom, she just was funny, And so it was
Yeah.
between that silliness and the, because I have a very playful side, right? The 10 of hearts is very playful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was able to just play with my mom and then we'd be at the dinner table and Al would be there, the three of us, and I would start taking my fingers and going towards her fingers like this on the table, like this. And then she'd have her fingers there. And then she'd start going like this. And then we go like this. And we go like this. And then Al would go, oh, you two are adorable. And so we just were these like silly little things that my mom and I did while I'm using her with love. And she just like was able to drop into this place of receiving my love in the most beautiful way, and returning it, with saying thank you. I'd say, Mom, who am I? And she'd go, you're that nice lady. And I go, Mom, who am I? Every day I'd ask her. And she'd go, you're the lady that gets everything done. And then I go, Mom, who am I? We just do these silly things. Mom, who am I? And then she'd go, you're my daughter. And I go, yes, So, everything, even though she wasn't tracking, my mom was there. She didn't know the words. The words couldn't come out of that I was her daughter or whatever. But so it's just this, beautiful connection that we developed that really helped her, I think, to just let her guard down, and feel safe. Also, you're 95. When you get older, I think you just naturally also get more relaxed with more things in your life, and I think this was maybe one of the last pieces for her to relax into, receiving love and giving love, and it just felt natural.
That's beautiful. So your love was the secret sauce. Your love was the medicine.
I think so. I just oozed her with love, and unbeknownst to me, she just dropped into a place of being loving, but I knew she was a 10 of hearts too. So there was that was very helpful for me, because it's almost like I recognized my mom and I had a deeper understanding of each other, just both being a 10 of hearts, that she, of course, a mother knows their children, their parent, knows their children so well, so she knew me. And even though she didn't always know who I was, she knew me. So there was a comfort level, right, that she had with me as well. So it was very cool just to experience that with her.
That's wonderful. And so here's the other way to ask the same question I asked a few minutes ago. What did that give you to see that in her and to have that bond between the two of you? What did you get out of that?
Just, the joy of her receiving my love, just the joy of her of her receiving my love. And just to, just helping her with this aspect of love that was not always easy for her. She's never had a girlfriend in her whole life. She never had it. I shouldn't say her whole life. She maybe had him when she was younger, but her whole adult life, she never had any friends. And so to be able to just, and she went through World War II, so she had a difficult life in many ways where she had to maybe have that Ace of Diamonds facade, you know what I mean? And so it really just, it was such a joy for me to be able to authentically love her and to see her receiving it and just being however she was going to be, you know what I mean? And her, I didn't really have any expectations. That's one of the things I worked a lot on. You have to work a lot on with your parents. It seems like a, common theme is you have these expectations of your parents because they're your parents. So you think they should be a certain way and you forget they're just people, they're just people. So I didn't have any expectations when my mom moved in because I had done a lot of healing work around all the expectations I had. I let those go. So I didn't even have any expectations when I was oozing love all over her. You know what I mean? I was just being myself. And it was just this, to see her receive it was just such a joy for me, knowing the life she's led, of not having girlfriends, of of going through World War II, not being that close to her mother, losing her father, when he was quite young. And, and my dad had been dead for 25 years at this point too. So she didn't have a lot of love in her life. You know what I mean? And plus she had kept herself distant from people because she never felt safe. And maybe because, I don't know, you guys could probably figure it out based on her cards, why that was, that she never had a connection with, anyone. Um, and I found when going through all these old pictures, I found a picture of her when she was maybe 16, and she was holding the hand of another young 16-year-old. And I showed it to Al, my husband. I just start crying. I go, oh, mom had a friend, I was like, so I was like that person for her because she didn't know who I was. So I wasn't always her daughter. In her mind, I was the lady who helped her, the nice lady who helped her, the lady who did everything. And it was just such a joy to be able to give that to my mom because she was a great mom. It was one of the joys of her life was being a mother, and she was a good mother, even given all my expectations of how it should have been better or different, that I had healed. So yeah, it was a very full circle moment for me, Alexander, just to have experienced all that, with my mom. The last 8 months she lived with us.
That's really beautiful. And again, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is that it gave you joy. That was what you got from it, was
Yep.
joy. And it I imagine would be a joy that would be really satisfying to your soul.
Yeah.
That would be really deeply meaningful for you.
Yeah. Especially with all the healing work I had gone through, with my mom, just a ton. It was probably been my biggest healing opportunity, was my relationship with my mom. It was a lot of work to go through for me and to unravel the pain and deal with the issues I had around that. And then to have my mom living with us and to be able to have such a sweet, authentic, loving connection, it's just a full circle moment.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So inspiring. I mean, just really healing and inspiring. I mean, just listening to you, I just feel like I'm receiving a healing, and even just hearing how you've overcome things and shared your love, and it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So one final question, and that is, if you could have your own massive billboard that millions or even billions of people could see, what would the message be on it that you would want to share?
The thing that came to mind was love first. Just love first. And however people interpret that, you know what I mean? But that's what I would say.
I love it.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
It's a great way to finish with
It is.
love first.
Yeah. Love
First, last, and always. Finish
Yeah.
with love first.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Beautiful. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about what it's been like for you to play your cards in life.
You're very welcome. I hope that more people get to learn about the work, the amazing work that you two do, because it's changed my life and made my life richer in having the awareness, that you two have brought forth in your teachings. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathryn.